The Canadian Rockies have been and continue to be a tourist attraction for many people around the world. The Alpine Club of Canada was established in 1906 to promote Canada's mountain culture. Today, the ACC operates the largest backcountry operation in North America.
Canada had, since the turn of the 20th century, been a mountaineering destination, but without its own national climbing organization. The American Alpine Club had offered to establish a wing of their organization in Canada, but Arthur Oliver Wheeler, he was the Dominion land surveyor, he wanted nothing with that. He wanted to have a national climbing organization. So he started writing letters to newspapers, and he wrote a letter to the Manitoba Free Press in 1905, and it landed on the desk of the reporter Elizabeth Parker in Winnipeg. And together they garnered tremendous support for Canada's own national mountaineering organization, and their first meeting was held in Winnipeg in 1906.
Prior to the ACC forming, the Canadian Pacific Railway brought Swiss guides over to lead their hotel guests on excursions through the backcountry. The Swiss guides later petitioned the CPR to build little guest houses where they could provide the guests with short-term accommodation.
Their first huts were the Waiwaxi and the Elizabeth Parker hut. So they are log cabin construction, large open fireplaces. They're spacious. They're large. There's actually a large building there. There's some scholarship that suggests there were 2 or 3 phases of Alpine Hut construction. And the first phase, of course, coming from the Swiss and into the 1960s with Canadian or North American hut construction. They were usually below tree line, situated in proximity to mountains and peaks that were achievable for maybe not, the less professional climber. And then around the 1960s, you see the next phase of Alpine Hut construction. And I think that's when that Swiss, or that typically Swiss characteristic maybe fell away, at least here in North America, with developments in backpacking equipment, camp stoves, portable fuels like propane and butane. People were able to go further, wanted to go further above tree line. They wanted to climb peaks that hadn't yet been summited.
The Alpine Club of Canada's national office is located in Canmore, Alberta. Their first hut spans back to the 1920s.
The facilities go back quite a ways. The Alpine Club built its first facility in 1927, the Fay Hut. Sadly, that burnt down in the Kootenay fires of 2003. But I think more than anything, it sort of set a precedent for what the club needed to be in terms of providing remote shelter in some of these remote areas. These high altitude huts, so to speak. A lot of the facilities that we have now were acquired from Parks Canada or from CP Rail. CPR was an influential organization early on in developing tourism in Western Canada, and certainly the Alpine Club has a long-lasting relationship with CP Rail.
The ACC has over 20 facilities across Canada, from Newfoundland and Labrador to Vancouver Island and up into the Yukon. Along with the touristy appeal, the huts provide a safe place to stay for backcountry explorers.
The huts provide important shelter for backcountry trekkers. They reduce the potential between conflict or encounters with humans and wildlife. As well, they are, despite the fact that they are semi-permanent or permanent structures out there, they reduce the human imprint on the environment. This waste is human waste is collected and flown out. Cooking is contained in one structure rather than numerous campsites in the area.
We have over 40,000 overnights in the backcountry throughout the Rockies in a number of facilities. It promotes tourism. It promotes people to get into Banff Park, to get into Yoho Park, into the Rocky Mountains, and get off the beaten path to see just how beautiful this UNESCO heritage site really is. Well, the club has really evolved in the past decade. As adventure tourism and sport and recreation has sort of grown in the eyes of the public. A lot of that has to do with social media, adventure tourism, marketing in general. People with their GoPros, they want to have that sort of special experience in the backcountry.
They want that exclusivity.
Exclusivity is a great term for it.
In Alberta, the ACC has facilities as far south as Waterton Lakes National Park, leading up north to Jasper. However, they're not done adding to their impressive resume. The club has some new and exciting facilities in the making.
The partnerships that we have with Parks Canada and the acquisition of some of these warden cabins, but more recently is a new project at Mount Des Poilus in the Wapta ice fields. We have a new facility going in there. It's a very high-end facility. It's employing a lot of interesting new technologies around solar and wind generation, some waste management testing, and then we'll just continue to work with our partners to try and acquire more facilities and grow that network.
The Alpine Club's vision is to bring together and give voice to Canada's mountaineering community, and that legacy the club has had carries on to today. The club is a non-for-profit organization which reinvests the money they make back into their facilities. The club is the mandating facility for competitive climbing, which got shortlisted by the IOC as an Olympic possibility down the road.
I think people in Canada really, again, need to understand that they come from a very unique heritage here. You know, the country is not that old. We're coming up on our sesquicentennial in 2017. The club has been around since 1906, promoting the ethos of camaraderie and mountain heritage. Again, getting back to the European model, much older countries, much longer history of mountain culture, mountain climbing. But Canadians really need to be proud that there is an organization like the Alpine Club looking out for their mountain heritage and promoting that unique aspect of being Canadian.